So today we're doing a video around one of the most highly sought after four-wheel drives of 2021, the 80 Series Land Cruiser. And Ron, thanks for coming out here,
buddy. Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. So Ron is the owner of this beautiful 96 Land Cruiser. And first of all, Ron, what's the appeal of the 80 Series? What drew you to this car?
Okay, that's a great question. So about 15 years ago, I had an FJ60 that my wife made me sell.
Okay.
Okay, I had it for a few years. I was upset. I'm still upset about it, right? And the 80. What I love about the 80, very different than the 60, is it's very drivable. Okay, I can drive along the highway at 80 miles an hour, speed limit allowing,
right?
Of course, right?
Right.
And it still has that old school charm.
Okay.
Right. I love the solid front axle that you don't get in the later Land Cruisers. And that's really just, it's just that old school charm that I really love.
No, it makes sense. So you had a 60 Series.
Yes.
Did you grow up in Land Cruisers? What got you into the brand?
A friend of mine had a 60
okay.
in the early 2000s, and I just fell in love with it, and I found one, I bought it, and I loved it until I didn't have it.
So Ron, when you decided you wanted an 80 Series, did you find this vehicle or did it find you? What's the story with it?
No, I kind of found it. It sort of found me too, right? So I had a customer on the West Coast. He was in the Bay Area, and it was sitting in the parking lot of his office, locked parking lot. And so every time I'd see him, I'd say, "Kwong, what are you going to do with that Land Cruiser?" He'd say, "Ron, it's not for sale. It's my," it's like, "No, it's not for sale. It's my souvenir. That's not for sale." So we had that conversation for 2 years, about every 8 weeks, right? And late last year, it was around Christmas time, we had a conversation. He said, "Ron, I think I'm ready to sell that Land Cruiser." And I said, "Sold. By the way, what do you want for it?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, whatever you want to pay for it."
Okay.
So we went back and forth. We worked out a deal. I had never seen it up close. It was like, always 50 feet away when I'd see it. So I was a little concerned. I thought there might be some rust. In the pictures, I could see a little shadow here. I thought, this might be all rust. There was no rust.
Wow.
It turned out great. So I had it trucked out from San Francisco, and it was in pretty bad shape aesthetically.
Okay, interesting. So it looked nothing like, what color was it? Was it stock? Was it modified?
It was bone stock.
Okay.
Okay, bone stock. Okay, it was blue, kind of a frost blue color.
Interesting.
And so that's the way it was when I bought it.
So you get it out here. Did it run? Did it drive? What did it take?
Didn't run very well initially because it hadn't been running.
Wow.
The fuel in it was about a year old. All of the fluids, I had all of the fluids changed, but they were all spotless. They were as clean. And so actually, I didn't change the diff oil because it was clean. I didn't change the transmission oil because it was clean. But I went through the brake fluid, I went through the engine oil, the radiator, the coolant. I did all of that. And other than that, the car was in perfect condition mechanically.
So it shows up in Colorado. You get it kind of running and driving. And then what led you down the road to turn it into the beast we see here today?
Well, okay, it wasn't going to stay stock for very long, right? It's like I needed an adventure vehicle, and I had a Gen 3 4Runner that I was using as my adventure vehicle, which I loved. I hated to see it go, but in order to do this, the wife said, "You got to do something to pay for this." So I sold my 4Runner. So
yeah.
The first thing I did is I called Slee off-road.
Okay.
And I got lucky. Christo himself picked up the phone, and we had a conversation. He asked me what I wanted to do. We put a build sheet together. He counseled me on, I wanted to go with 35s. He said, "Why do you want 35s? What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm going to be overlanding. I'm going to be pulling a trailer." He said, "Why do you want 35? You don't want 35s. It's like putting 4 anchors on this thing, okay? Particularly at altitude. It's underpowered. You don't want 35s." I said, "But they look cool. I want 35s." He said, "No, don't do it." So I listened to him. I'm glad I did. So I went with, 33s. Slee was great. I waited 2 months, and they were spot on with the schedule.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you did the bumper on the front. You've got the winch in the front.
Yep.
What about the suspension? How much of a lift is it?
2.5.
2.5. Okay.
Yep, 2.5.
And then 33-inch KO2s.
Yep.
And I think you really did a nice job with this because you did like the sliders down the side. You've got the back bumper that matches. It really came out nice. So from a mod standpoint, I mean, to be brutally honest, this is just like the only way that I would set up a Land Cruiser.
Is that right? Yeah.
It's just not too tall. And you mentioned that the engine on these, although dead reliable, not super quick, right?
So I've got an Opus OP4
Yep.
that I was pulling with my 4Runner. My 4Runner was supercharged, so it was piece of cake.
Like a rocket.
And
yeah.
so I thought, no problem with this. Well, it turned out to be a problem. So, going up, you call it the Ike Gauntlet, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was doing 25 miles an hour with my hazards on.
Jeez, really?
Yeah.
Whew.
It was not, I'm not going to do that again.
Okay, so this is an FZJ80, right?
Yeah.
So it's got a
212 horsepower,
Okay.
280 pound-feet of torque.
automatic.
Automatic, 4-speed automatic, so you've got some big spaces in between the gears.
Now, long term, are you going to hold on to this engine and
Yeah.
just kind of put up with it? Okay.
I am.
Gotcha. And why is that? I mean, I know there's like some people there's a big 4.7 swap community now.
Yeah, number one, it's expensive. Number two, I like the old school charm.
Right.
I'm not going to pull a trailer with it over the Ike Gauntlet, okay? But flat on the flats around here, I can pull the trailer. It's not an issue.
And I think another question people have is, what kind of fuel economy does it get?
Not so good.
Okay.
It ranges between 12 and 14 miles a gallon.
Okay, yeah, so it's like full-size truck level. So once you had the mods done and you had it running right, talk to me about what you did to the body to get it looking so cool, because this must have been a process.
Well, yeah. So the paint was in pretty bad shape. The clear coat was shot. Okay, it was peeling. Anywhere that was facing up, it was peeling.
Okay.
Right. So the hood, the roof, so in lieu of having it painted, I went with a wrap. I had some minor body work done to it to pull out just little door dings and stuff like that.
Interesting.
The car had never been in an accident, but fortunately. And I took it to a shop in Denver. They had it wrapped. I did the wrap prior to taking it to Slee, just so that, the guys doing the wrap could get to, I didn't want them pulling bumpers off.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, they just put on.
Yeah.
So what was the thoughts behind the wrap versus the paint? I mean, was it a cost thing? How much does it cost to wrap a vehicle with having to sand down the whole body? That's
Yeah,
gotta be a
well, okay, I'll
process.
tell you exactly. So I spent about $2,000 on the body work prior to getting it wrapped. Okay, just the dings, getting dings out, having the clear coat sanded down, then they primered where they needed to put primer to cover up, where they had to sand the clear coat. And then I spent another $3,000 on the wrap. So I've got about 5 into that versus a good paint job. I mean,
10,
you're probably
15?
looking at 10 or 12. Or,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I think the cool thing too is, it comes out looking perfect, right? Even if you put 8, 10 into a paint job, there still is a chance that it's not going to be the right shade or things aren't going to match. The nice thing about the wrap is it's one unanimous color. And did you know you wanted it this kind of flat gray? Was there a lot of discussion back and forth?
Yeah, there was.
Okay.
Actually, the shop was very helpful. We looked at a lot of samples, and I elected to go with this color.
Oh, it's fantastic. It looks so
thank
good.
You. Yeah, I'm really pleased with it.
And then talk to me through the interior. I mean, did it look like this when you bought it, or
No.
was there kind of a lot of work that went in here, too?
Actually, it did. It looked just like it did, with the exception of the seat covers. The seats were pretty hammered, right? The leather was torn.
Right.
Structurally, the seats are in fantastic shape, but the leather just was shot. So I thought, what do I do? Do I want to I don't think so. Not now. So I looked into car, the seat covers, and Carhartt had a really good option that looked like it fit well. And there's like a 10-week lead time on the seat cover. They make them to order for the specific vehicle.
That's interesting.
Yep.
And this is all through Carhartt? Like you go on the website and you select?
Yeah, I forget the website I went through. I just
Very
searched for, there's a
interesting.
company that was doing it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you had the seat covers put on it, and I love that you still have the original head unit on the radio.
Yeah, which I'm going to keep.
Yeah, for sure.
Gonna keep it that way.
Super, super cool. So now that you've kind of got you've got the lift and you've got the wrap done, walk me through the rack, because I've never seen one like this.
Okay,
It's
this
very
rack
cool.
is awesome. It's a local company here in Broomfield called Gamiviti. It's an odd name. the guy, the owner of the company works out of his house. His name is Tim. He does this full time, and he builds custom racks for 4Runners and Land Cruisers.
That's it, huh?
Yeah.
He just only Toyotas out of his house? Okay.
Pretty certain. To my understanding, it's a Toyota focused rack.
Unreal.
Yeah. So, it's stout. It looks good. It's low enough to where I can get it in my garage still. And
I love that the accessory extensions hang down versus up.
Yeah, which is fantastic for, just clearance purposes.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it really is.
And then you said that these kind of like baby receivers, they accept accessories too?
Yeah, so I have a receiver. It works like a receiver hitch. I've got caps on them right now, but my awning will plug into these. Literally just plugs in. I put a pin in here, and they're there. So if you need, I put a rooftop tent on here. If I want to get to the rooftop tent, where if I'm breaking it down and I want a little more space to work with, I can just pull the awning off. It takes me 30 seconds to pull it off.
That's so cool.
Go set it down on the ground. And
So what's the long-term plan with this vehicle? Is this going to be your daily driver? Is it an adventure vehicle? How are you using it?
It's an adventure vehicle.
Okay.
It's currently, I'm in between cars. I ordered another car for my wife, so I'm waiting. It's like a week away.
Oh, congratulations, yeah.
So currently using it as my daily. I work from home, so I'm not really having to drive much for work, but it's going to be my adventure vehicle solely.
Okay.
As we move forward here.
And do you think you're going to hold on to it for a while?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I got to be careful about what I say. All my friends tell me, we don't believe you. I got a little bit of a car fetish. So
that's too funny.
Yeah.
So I think kind of the allure of the Land Cruisers is that they do last forever. And over the past 6,000 miles, has that been true? Has it been pretty reliable?
And I haven't had to do a thing to it.
Wow. Okay.
No, it's been perfect. And look, the beautiful thing about the Land Cruiser, it's 25 years old, and there's no rattles in it. It's stout. It's a solid vehicle. And when that engine does go out, it'll cost me $5,000 or $6,000 to put a new one in.
Right.
So it's like, that's a no-brainer.
What's the miles on this one right now?
201,000 and change.
201. So really not bad.
It's not bad.
It's really pretty good.
Yeah.
So let's close this up, because now for the question, I think a lot of people are going to be curious. How much do you think you have in it in total? Do you have any idea?
I've got roughly 25 into it.
It's pretty good.
Roughly 25.
It's pretty good. And nowadays, the market is just so exploded for everything, but specifically like the solid axle Land Cruisers, they used to be affordable a few years ago, and now they're just through the roof.
They're going crazy.
Yeah, and they're becoming, unfortunately, I think to a lot of people, investments. Like people are buying them and just hoarding them.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see that you're using it. And do you take it off road too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually, I had to wash it before I came here. It's always dirty.
Do you have any plans for like lockers or anything down the road?
I will put a rear locker on it.
Okay.
I'm going to put an ARB locker on the back.
Sweet.
The front, I don't need a front locker. In a perfect world, it would have been triple locked when I bought it, but it wasn't.
Right.
And for 99% of what I'm going to be doing, I probably don't need a locker. Right?
Right.
So, but I do want the locker, because that, 1 or 2%, when you do need it, it's a whole lot easier, twisting a switch versus pulling your winch out and,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, these are really special vehicles, and I think people have definitely figured it out by now, but it's the last of the solid axles, but like you said, it still has like the modern luxuries and AC and cruise control.
It's still very comfortable. I can actually get my wife in it and do an adventure trip, and she's comfortable, I'm comfortable, and it's all good.
Well, sir, thank you so much. Really
Thanks so
appreciate
much.
it. Guys, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on another episode of TFL Classics.